This video is going to walk you through the Power Process tool for sociology. Power Process is a hands-on tool that allows students to review and analyze articles in order to improve those critical reading and critical thinking skills. So let's look at how we set up this assignment. So within Connect, you're going to go to Add Assignment and scroll down to Power Process. Now, once you get into the assignment, you have three options. You could find your own articles and upload them here for students to view. You could ask students to find articles and upload them here. Or you could select from a preloaded list of articles that are already in Connect. If you are uploading a document or asking students to upload a document, it must be in a doc format. So let's look at the documents that are already in Connect. And these are classic sociology articles that have been, when instructors have been asked to give feedback in the past, have been requested and that relate directly to the information in the textbook. So we are going to look at this article right here, The 5 Sexes, Why Male and Female Are Not Enough. And if we preview on this article, we're going to see that it was written by Anne Fausto Sterling. Now, if we go into John Witt's Sociology, and we go to the chapter on gender and sexuality, we are going to see that during the information that's provided about the biological differences between males and females, they do reference Anne Fausto Sterling and her work. So they get information about Anne Fausto Sterling in the textbook. There's also an example when looking at the Olympic runner Caster Semenya. So let's go back into this article and we're going to hit assign and continue. Now you'll see here that there are different reading strategies that are implemented here. And they're broke down into before reading, during reading, and after reading. So before students even start reading the article, we want them to consider the title. What does the title make you think the article will discuss? What do you expect to learn from this article based on the title? And what you're going to see here is that you have a choice between annotation and text response. When you choose the annotation, students are going to have to highlight directly in the article and then comment based on those highlights. The text response, they're going to be brought right to a text box. So we want students to consider the title. I also want my students to recognize prior knowledge. Since they have read about this briefly in the textbook, I want them to write about what do they already know about the subject, the place the text was written, what do you need to know before you read. Okay. Once they do the reading, during the reading, I want my students to just focus on what new vocabulary is in there. And you're going to see here we have the annotation. So they're going to have to actually highlight the new vocabulary and then also write about what that new vocabulary means. And they're also going to have to highlight important information within the text. Okay. And then I want them to identify the author's position. Right? It's important when we look at sociology to be able to, in sociological concepts, to identify the author's position on the subject. And you're going to see that when I check that, this wheel over here is going to change and it's going to add a new reading strategy in there. Okay? After the reading, what do I want my students to be able to do? I want them just in the very beginning to recall and summarize what they just read. They highlighted the most important points. They highlighted the author's main position, but I want them to be able to recall, summarize, paraphrase in their own words, what did they just read? Okay. There's a whole bunch of different strategies here. Research, findings, and diversity, I'm going to uncheck that. You're going to see some of these more or less apply, especially if you're asking students to find their own articles. You want them to make sure that they are maybe evaluating the quality of the research, realizing how generalizable the findings are, develop their own arguments. But we're going to scroll down here and let's see, develop an argument. Okay, so I want my students to be able to highlight the main points. I want them to be able to summarize, but I want them to make their own arguments too. Now you'll see here that you can tailor this. So when they're developing an argument, it says what reasons support your argument. Well, I want them to be more specific here. So I'm going to alter this and tell them that I want them to list 3 reasons to support their argument, so it's clear about what I am expecting from them. Okay? And then the other thing I want them to do is related to current events. So that is not one of my options, so I'm going to add that option here. So my title is going to be current events. Let me check that. And then I'm going to go back to the case of Castor-Semenya that they saw in their textbook and say, how does this article relate to Castor-Semenya's current challenge to IIAF regulations? And I'm going to click there, and now you could see our wheel is complete about what the students are supposed to do before, during, and after the reading. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and assign this, right? You could add additional instructions here, read the article and follow the strategies. Okay, I'm going to put my due date in here and assign 100 points. If you want to upload any additional attachments, you could do that here. We're going to hit continue and assign this assignment. Okay. Now, what does this look like from the student view? So let's pull into student view here. And here we're going to see that article, The 5 Sexes. I'm just going to move my screen over a little bit more so you can see this. Okay, here we go. And power process. The students are going to begin. Start. Okay. Now you are going to see this wheel pull up and select a strategy below to continue. Okay, so you're going to see here's the wheel. The assignment, the article is right here, grayed out behind it. So once you hit continue, consider the title, you are going to see the 5 sexes, and if you come down here, the 5 sexes revisited, and students will be able to put in their responses here. There are more than 2 sexes. All right, and you see that change color here. Recognize prior knowledge. And students can be read about this in chapter 12. Okay. All right, so now it's going to bring into what we're going to do during the reading. Okay, so it's going to tell me I want to highlight any vocabulary, key terms, or theoretical procedures that are new to you. So I'm going to come down here and I am going to look at some of the vocabulary terms that are in here, right? So we're going to scroll down here and I'm going to highlight it, say these are the terms for intersex individuals. Okay, I'm going to save that. Any other new vocabulary you could highlight in here, and again in that previous stage you're able to tell them highlight at least 6 to 8 key terms or concepts that are new to you. So you're able to tailor this so that you make sure that you're giving clear instructions to those students. Once I'm finished highlighting that new vocabulary, I'm going to highlight that new information. So I'm just going to go here for time's sake, highlight the first paragraph, and this is the author's main point, and save that. Okay. And we'll put go get to the end of this assignment. Main position. All right. So you're going to see here they're going to recall and summarize material. So after reading the entire text without looking at it again, what information do you remember from the text? How do you paraphrase the author's main point and the most important information? So we're just building upon those strategies that we asked them to do in the last one. They can go and see what they already highlighted in order to be able to do this section also. They're going to develop an argument. Remember, we want them to list at least three reasons to support their argument, and then relate them back to Castor Semenya and her current event case right here. Okay, now after they have completed each of these parts, we are going to see that they are going to then be asked to reflect on this process. So when you're done, you're going to hit my process, reflect on my process, and below it's going to give them the circle and a list that details the order that they went through. So this is just having them go back and kind of reflect, pull it all together. What parts have they already done? It looks at how many times they visited each strategy, if they visited each strategy more than once. Okay. After they put the information in there, then they're going to be able to review their work. So they're going to be able to go back in, see their responses that are in there. If they need to edit these responses, they could go in and edit these responses. You see exactly what you highlighted here, what your additional comments are. And then after all this, once they review it, they could go ahead and submit. Before they submit, they could go ahead and download a PDF version of all their responses. And then once they have that, they could simply hit submit the assignment. So I hope this video was useful in showing you this power process tool and how it can be used in the class. It's just a really good way to get students to focus in on the article, focus their attention on finding the most important information, finding those positions, finding those main arguments, and then being able afterwards to be able to recall and paraphrase what they wrote, but also that higher level of learning, really being able to develop their own arguments, relate it back to current events.